else is gonna get your attention. Welcome back. We've got ourselves the Great CrossFit Grip Dispute. I totally stumbled across my words, but I don't really care. So, hey, we've got a lot of grips. I don't know what else to really say for this. We've just got a lot of grips. So let me show you real fast, okay? How's that for an understatement? And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Great CrossFit Grip Dispute. So let's get started. I got some pretty exciting test plans for these grips. You know, the basics, you know, can you do pull-ups and toes the bar and, you know, some heavy weighted durability chest to bar and, you know, like sweating tests. And of course, there's the reciprocating saw test. The first test we're gonna be doing on these grips is a basic test. We've got 7 different movements and we're gonna put each grip through each movement to see how well they fare. How well do these grips do on pull-ups? How about toes to bar? How about bar muscle-ups? How about ring muscle-ups? Now let's leave the rig. How do they fare grabbing a kettlebell and doing kettlebell swings? What about some light bar work? In this case, we're gonna be doing some light snatches. Okay, now let's leave the bar and the kettlebell swing. How well do these grips feel on your wrist when you have to do handstand walking? At the end of the basic testing, we're gonna pull out the 4 lowest scores. But before we pull them out, we will discuss why I pulled them out, maybe what I did like about them, but what I didn't like about them in terms of the movements we just tested. You guys excited about this? I am too. Let's get started. Testing Toto Wraps, the sweet grip. Basic testing rather than fitness. Flex Fit grips. Roo grips. I think they're actually made out of real kangaroo leather, so that's actually kind of cool. Good old-fashioned Walmart grips. Armor grips. Captain Hook grips. Arr, mateys. Following basic testing, the 2 lowest scoring grips are Yoso grips and Waddies. Now again, like I mentioned, this is all based upon personal preference. When it comes to personal preference though, I need grips that I can take on and off quickly. In that case, the Yoso grips and the Waddy grips, they're just honestly, they're the old school concept of wrapping it around your wrists using Velcro. They're just too complicated to take on and take off. One distinct advantage of the Yoso and Waddy grips though is the fact that they kind of act as a wrist support if you got weak wrists, and they also probably act as some kind of like sweat dampener, right? So if I'm sweating up here and it's dripping down my arm, if I'm doing push-ups or something, it won't get to my hand because it'll hit the grips first and get soaked up. So that is one distinct advantage of it, along with the wrist support. The fact of the matter is the advantages of wrist support and also soaking up some of my sweat when I'm working out doesn't overcome the fact that it's hard to get in and out of. And it's a very old school grip concept, right? It's the old school grips from a long time ago, and I'm just not a fan. The next lowest scoring grips are Deceitful Strength. They're being pulled out of the competition. Reasons for this being is it's a solution for a beginner CrossFitter. The nice part is these are really cheap. I think they're like $12 to $13. So they're $12 to $13. If you just started CrossFit and you're looking for a little bit of hand protection and you're just learning pull-ups, this is probably the grips for you. They're probably pretty good for that reason. But for a high-level CrossFitter, from my personal experience and preference, I would not wear these in a competition. They don't grip the bar very well. They're foam, so they're kind of thick. They squish a lot, and it's just not something I would use in a competition. In Deceitful Strength's defense, they did send these to me, and in a handwritten letter, they actually detailed that these grips are built for a beginner CrossFitter, and they're not necessarily built for a elite level or top level CrossFitter. So, and it is true. That is right. This is probably for someone who just started, who's just learning keeping pull-ups, and not necessarily for someone who's trying to bang out 50 to 60 pull-ups unbroken. So, Deceitful Strength. The last set of grips being pulled out from basic testing is Jerk Fit Death Grips. Reasons for pulling these out is one, they're difficult to put on. They're honestly just difficult to put on. They're hard to put on. Like I mentioned, I want grips I can get in and out of quickly, and I can't seem to get in and out of these grips very quickly at all. Reason number two is they're quite slippery on a rig. Now, I have a raw rig, a raw bar, it's not powder coated, and so it's already sticky in and of itself. But these grips, it's very hard to grab on toes of bar, it's very uncomfortable, and I personally didn't like how they felt on the rig. They're also a little thick when it comes to grabbing a bar and grabbing a kettlebell swing, and so it's just not grips I prefer. So that's Jerk Fit Death Grips. Next test, durability. How durable are they? How strong are they? How well do they stand up? And there's no better movement to test grips with that than weighted chest bar pull-ups. Courtesy of 511 Tactical. But 20 pounds it's just not gonna cut it. So we're gonna do 40. Let's get started. All right, so we finished the durability test, chest bar pull-ups, the 40-pound weight vest. We tested about 20 to 30 reps per grip. And what I was really looking for was, do the grips grip the bar really well? Because again, I'm heavier. Do my hands rip? Do the grips rip? Are the grips too thin? Stuff like that, because when you wear a weight vest, it's a little bit different than when you do pull-ups. If you do pull-ups, you're just your body weight. But when you add on 20 to 30, 40 pounds on yourself, it completely changes the game. Same as we did for the basic testing, I'm gonna take out the bottom 4 scoring grips and the durability test. We're gonna quickly talk about why I didn't like them, what they might be good for, why they weren't good for this, what I liked about them, my preferences and stuff like that. One of the grips being pulled out is Rue grips. Honestly, I really like these grips. They were sent to me. Their packaging was pretty cool. And the fact they're made out of kangaroo leather is pretty sick. It's a pretty cool concept. The reason I did not like them in the durability test is because they're just too thin. I could feel the bar pulling on my hands, and it was just too thin. The leather's too thin to protect my hands. I need just a little bit thicker, and it would probably be a game changer when I'm using a weight vest. When it came to basic testing though, these grips did great. I love them for the basic testing. Just when I add weight, they're not great when I add a weight vest. So that's Rue grips. You guys are gonna be sad to see this one go, but Dick's Sporting Goods and their Rage grips, and they gotta go. I didn't like them. I wasn't a fan. I actually could feel them ripping at the seams, so don't buy Rage grips if you decide to do chest to bar pull-ups with a weight vest. The next 2 grips I pulled out are gonna be pulled out for the exact same reasons. So there's 2 of them, right? We've got pivot grips, which is a cool concept because it pivots around the wrist area. And the other grips I'm pulling out is Toto wraps. Both for the same reasons. They're both really slippery grips. Even when I added chalk, using a 40-pound weight vest, I could barely grab the bar. Now you guys might be saying, okay, well it just takes a little bit of time and they should roughen up, or if you take a wire brush to them, or if you take sandpaper to them. But the fact of the matter is, when I buy grips, I want grips that when I pull them out of the bag, they're golden. They're good to go no matter what. Because if I go to a competition, and let's say for instance, I go to a competition and I'm wearing pivot grips, and they rip out there in the field. And I've used these grips for a couple weeks, so they're broken. And they rip out there. Well, if I have another set of pivot grips in a bag and I pull them out to do the next workout, and the next workout has chest to bar pull-ups, well, I can't break my grips in for that competition. I need grips that when I pull them out of the bag, they are golden, they're 100% ready to go and ready to hit the ground running. And when it came to pivot grips and it came to Toto wraps, they were just too slippery for me to grab the bar for chest to bar pull-ups with a weight vest. So. And next up, we have the saltwater test. How well do these grips function when they're completely soaked in water and your sweat? We're gonna find out. Obviously, at this point in the game, the 11 grips I have left are pretty solid. They're pretty good grips. But in order to find the best grips for everything, you need to go to some outlandish, sometimes unnecessary lengths of tests in order to determine what's the best. So the saltwater test is a good test. Obviously, you sweat and your grips get a little bit damp. Do they get completely soaked like you swam in a swimming pool? Probably not. But if you had to swim in a swimming pool, swim in the ocean, swim anywhere, swim in a lake, and then get out and do some bar muscle-ups or get out and do some pull-ups, then this would be a good test of finding the best grips. So after this test, I determined the 2 worst grips for the saltwater test. I'm gonna drop those out from the competition. Again, these 2 grips are great. They just didn't fare too well at being really soaked in water. First one is the Mad Wad grips. Reason for this is they're really thin and they didn't dissipate water very well. They held onto it and it was really hard to grab on the bar. You kept slipping off compared to other grips. That's Mad Wad. The next set of grips that didn't fare too well with the saltwater test was Victory grips. To be honest, Victory grips, they have a great set of grips. These just soaked up water and they don't dry as quickly as the other ones, and it was really hard to hold in the pull-up bar. Next up, the drag test. Essentially what we're doing is we're gonna drive down some Kansas back roads until all these grips or a few of these grips fall off and rip apart. It's pretty simple. We've got one grip Velcro to itself attached around the rope, and then the other partner grip is attached to the one attached to the rope. So if the Velcro fails on the parent grip around the rope, they both disappear when they're dragged along the gravel roads. And if the partner one fails, it falls off and it disappears. If any of these grips disappear, they're out. If your Velcro can't stand up some Kansas gravel roads for a few days being dragged along, your Velcro's not good. That's the true measurement. All right, we're about 10 miles in. Let's go check. Stay here, Winston. Looks like we still got most of them. They're looking pretty rough, though. Looking pretty rough. All right, boys, keep it up. So the real question is, which ones did we lose? Which ones survived? And again, like I said, which ones are on the Kansas countryside somewhere along the road? We have 4 grips that are gonna be eliminated. Let's go through each one and what I maybe liked about them, didn't like about them, and maybe why they didn't make it through the actual drag test. One of the first grips that didn't make it through the drag test was the Alex Smith grips by RX Smart Gear. If I'm being honest, I really like these grips. They're solid grips. One of the main reasons they probably didn't make it through the drag test was the fact that there's honestly not a whole lot of working space here for attaching to itself, right? So I have a lot of soft Velcro, but I don't have a whole lot of play room to work with. And so maybe if this was a little more Velcro here, then it might have lasted longer. But to be honest, like, would it still probably work on your wrists? Yes. I mean, am I going to extreme natures by dragging it through the gravel roads? Yeah. But you have to go to extreme natures and we're gonna find the best grips, right? So let's move on. One of the other set of grips that didn't make it to the drag test was the Armour grips out of Russia. A good set of 3-hole finger grips. One issue I had with them was the size of the holes. I have really thick sausage fingers, and so putting them in these holes was a pain, but it was even worse taking them out. It's just, they're too small for my fingers. I I don't know if you buy a bigger size, if the holes gets bigger, but I doubt it. So if you're a person with really thick sausage fingers like mine, probably Armour grips aren't probably your best choice because it's hard to put your fingers in and out of. Moving on. Third set of grips that didn't make it through the drag test was the Sweet Grip. And if I'm being honest, I really actually like these grips. They're solid grips. I felt like they did very well in the previous tests. One of the main reasons they probably didn't make it through the drag test, and I actually saw this before I started it and thought to myself, that's gonna easily be one of the first grips that are probably gonna disappear, is the fact that there's not a whole lot of Velcro. It doesn't wrap around itself, it doesn't have a loop, it just Velcros to itself, and it's really not a whole lot of space to Velcro to itself. And so I thought to myself, this is probably gonna be one of the first ones that probably fall off the rope. When it comes to durability, dragging it on the gravel really ripped it apart pretty badly. When you look at these grips, they're really roughed up. So honestly, this is probably the worst looking grips out of the ones that didn't make it and also did make it. This is pretty bad. It's ripped apart pretty bad. Now, granted, are your grips supposed to be meant for dragging through gravel? Probably not, like I mentioned for the previous ones that didn't make it. But again, in order to test and find the best grips in the world, you gotta put through some crazy tests. Moving on. The last set of grips that didn't make it through the drag test is No Rest RX. And if I'm being honest with you, this is all that's left. That's it. Still, a good set of grips out of Brazil. I liked them a lot. They were 3-hole finger. I had absolutely no issues with them, but obviously they had a lot of issues with gravel roads. So this is all I have left. RIP, No Rest, RIP. All right, ladies and gentlemen, who's getting excited? We're getting near the end of this. We are in the top 10 of the best CrossFit grips, according to me. Currently, we have 7 grips left, so I wanna very briefly go through each one real fast, shout their names out, and then we'll get started. And if you thought that the past couple tests were crazy, outlandish, and a little bit out of control, man, oh man, we're just getting started. We've got a few more left. Don't put them down unless you try them, but one of the top 7, Walmart grips. For $8, they're a steal, and honestly, they're not too bad. WOD Nation, durable, thick. I love the leather on these. They're pretty solid. Captain Hook Sports Equipment. With a name like that, I mean, how could you not make it into top 7? Pixel Grips. Honestly, I love how they feel on a bar. I love how they feel when you touch them. I just like how they feel. And they're really good grips. Jerk Fit Raw Grips. Easily my top #1 grips for how they grip a bar. You put these raw grips on a raw bar and it's literally impossible to let go. You'll be doing like 200 pull-ups unbroken in no time. Bear Complex, a fan favorite, a Rich Froning's favorite grips. They're not too thick, they're not too thin. They're honestly pretty solidly built grips. Relin Fitness, an honestly unknown company out of UK that makes grips that are honestly really good. And I'm excited to keep testing these grips. And for our next test, it just wouldn't be a good grip review if we didn't determine which grips could stand up to a Corgi's wrath. There was one grip that Winston was able to tear apart. RIP Walmart grips. RIP. Next test. Stress test. How much weight can these grips hold up to before they rip to pieces? Stress test results are in. I'm gonna drop the 2 lowest grips, meaning the 2 grips that could hold the least amount of weight. The first grip is Bear Complex. To be honest, like I mentioned, I knew this grip was gonna rip a pretty lightweight. It already had an incision right here placed on it from the drag test. Though it did make it through the drag test because the Velcro didn't fail, it did have a cut, and so it didn't take much weight to take that incision and rip off the rest of the handle. So this grip will not be going forward to the rest of the tests. The next grip that won't be going forward is Captain Hook Strength Equipment grips. It had a rip, it had an incision and rip from the drag test, and so it didn't take a whole lot to take a small incision and rip off the finger. And so this grip will also not be going forward into testing. We started out with 25 grips, and now we're at 4 grips. 4 grips, okay? 4 grips. This is the semifinals. We're only gonna take 2 grips to progress to the final event. And there's only one thing worthy of a semifinal event to knock out 2 grips, and that's using 4 pounds of tannerite. I'm gonna blow up the rest of these 4 grips. The only 2 grips that are gonna progress forward to the final event is the 2 grips that literally have the most pieces intact. Jerk Fit, WOD Nation, Pixel, and Relin Fitness. I hope you guys tested out using tannerite on your grips, because I'm gonna test it and we're gonna find out. Let's go see what we got, shall we? Now comes the really hard part of finding the grips and finding the pieces of them. All right, we got a piece of Pixel grips. Oh, look at this. Relin Fitness is still attached. That is pretty stellar. All right, we got another one. We got another Pixel. It's not honestly too shabby. That's a pretty good piece. All right, we got some more up here. What do we have here? We've got Jerk Fit Raw grips. I mean, this one you could almost still use. This piece isn't too bad either. It's not too shabby, not too shabby. All right, we're looking for the last one. I still haven't found WOD Nation yet. All right, we found the last piece. Here's all that is left. All that is left of WOD Nation. That's a pretty small piece. R.I.P. WOD Nation, R.I.P. One of the grips that will not be progressing to the finals is WOD Nation. And this is all I have of them. So they're done. The next set of grips that will not be progressing to the finals but are still a good set of grips is Pixel grips. Ladies and gentlemen, we start at 25 grips. 25 grips. And we have narrowed it down to the final 2 grips. We are in the final stretch, the final test. And the 2 contenders are Jerk Fit Raw grips and Relin Fitness grips. It's gonna be a close one. These grips have been through a lot. We first started out with some basic testing and did the basic movements, pull-ups, toes to bar, the things you really need grips for. And then moved on to more complicated things. How do they work with weighted chest to bars? How do they work when they're completely soaked? How do they function against a mad corgi? How do they work if they're being dragged along a road? What about if they're being blown up? How much weight can they take? And really, we've only been testing the grips, the tangible grips themselves. And so, for our final test, instead of testing the grips, we will instead be testing the actual company behind the grips. And how do you do that, you might ask? Simple. You make up a fake email and a fake person. This email was sent out to Relin Fitness and also Jerk Fit early this morning. Hi guys, my name is George Steff, and I'm a beginner CrossFitter from Kansas City. I recently purchased your grips and absolutely loved them. I got my first pull-up on them, and soon I'm looking to get my first muscle-up. Anyways, I ran into a bit of bad luck with them. I accidentally drove off with the grips attached to the back of my truck, and I drug them for a few miles. I put them into some really rough shape. On top of that, and I know it sounds crazy, the paint company I work at caught fire, and there were a few explosions. My gym bag was caught in that explosion, and the grips that are yours are nothing more than a few tattered pieces. See picture attached of your grips before all my bad luck happened. I was wondering if you guys would be so kind as to send me a new set of grips. Yours truly, George Steff, aka me. And now, we just wait. Let's see which company responds back quickly, what their response is, and how they address the situation. And to be honest, technically, both these grips have been drugged from the back of a truck, and technically, they both have been involved in an explosion. So now we wait. After 8 strenuous tests, hundreds of pull-ups, multiple weeks of filming, multiple days of being dragged through gravel, being torn apart by corgis, being torn apart by weights, launched into the air by hundreds of feet by an explosion, we have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. We have a winner to claim the title of the greatest CrossFit grips on the planet. Let me read the email I just received. Hello, George. Thanks for messaging us. Wow, that sounds crazy. Thanks for letting us know, and we can definitely send you out a new pair. Thanks for the picture. We actually have a 1-year warranty on our grips, so we can replace that pair no problem. Just need the address details, and we can send out a new pair to you ASAP. Kind regards, Relin Fitness. Relatively unknown, but here to claim the title of the best grips on the planet, we've got ourselves Relin Fitness out of the United Kingdom. I just want to say, Relin Fitness, congratulations on making yourself an amazing set of grips, an awesome product. I hope people go out there and find your website, purchase their products, and realize that you do make a pretty solid grip. Congrats, and thank you for sending these grips to me. To close this out, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you for watching, thank you for participating, thank you for tagging your favorite grips in all my Instagram posts. And also thank you to the companies that have sent me grips. Thank you for sending me grips, multiple grips. Thank you for letting me test them out, rip them apart, drag them in the roads, blow them up, whatever the case I did to your grips. Thank you for sending me grips. I hope you guys really enjoyed this review. I really enjoyed putting this together. I had a great time coming up with creative ways of testing grips in different ways that had never been thought of. So if you have any other ideas for reviews you'd like to see, comment below. Other than that, thank you for watching and have a great day. See you guys later.